Welcome, this is the Algebra Teacher Powers to BI, and in this demonstration, I want to showcase a few different things. The main goal of this demonstration is to showcase the new Azure Maps visual. Limitation with the Azure Map visual, though, is that you need latitude and longitude. And for some of my other demonstrations that I've done, I didn't have latitude and longitude, so I'm going to give you a quick resource of how you can pull those out. Along with that, we'll review how to do a merging of queries. If you know about all of that to begin with, and you just want to see how does this Azure Map visual look, then scroll through the video. I'll try to put down in the comments below where you should pick things up. But if you're new to Power BI and you want to do some merging and you want to review some skills, then follow along. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to analyze some failed banks and where they are located and what cities have the most failed banks. So in order to do that, I'm going to come out here to data.gov and I'm going to search for FDIC failed banks. So we're going to click on enter. If at any point I go through something too quickly in this video and you want to know more about it, feel free to put in the comments. I'd love to help you out and email you back and comment on it. So I'm going to go to FDIC failed banks and I'm going to click here on the FDIC failed banks. Now they have the CSV file. If I want it to always be updated to where it's not a static file, I want to reference this web address of where it's located. So on the download button, I'm going to do a right click and then I'm going to copy the link address. Now I've got exactly what I need. So now I'm over here. This is a web data source. So I'm going to go to get data down to the web, and we're now going to put in the exact web address of where we were at. And I'm going to click on OK. Now, when you get data from the web, you have a lot of different options. You can go with the exact data tables that are provided to you, or you can do it by a web by example type thing. Now, I'm going to do this one because it's a CSV file that we're referencing. But if you've ever just wanted to look at an exact web address of the whole web page and pull things out of that web page, take a look at one of my former videos, which was just last weekend, about getting data from the NFL website and making it personalized to just exactly what I wanted to see. But we are referencing an exact file that's hosted on the website, so we're not going to be doing that here. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to transform this data, which is going to open up our Power Query editor. And once in here, there are a few things that we're not going to need. So as best practice, I am going to get rid of the things that I don't want. So I'm up here in the choose columns. I'm going to choose the columns that I do want to keep. And the columns that I do want to keep once this pulls up, so I want the bank name, the city, the state. I don't need the acquiring institution. And really for this example, I don't even need the closing date. So I'm just going to keep these three things to make the processing quicker. Now I know that if I were to close this out now and try to put this onto the actual visual, that things would be really bad because city is not very unique. City and a state combination are unique because Jacksonville, there's more than one just Jacksonville in Florida. There's Jacksonvilles in other parts of America. So what I would do at this point, we'll showcase this, is I could add a column and I could do a custom column here. And I could say that I want this column to be the city, comma, and the state. Or you know what, I'll just call it the city, state. And what I would want is I'd want to reference the city. So I'd click on city, click on insert, and I want to concatenate that. So I'm using the ampersand sign with the actual state. And things at this point would be pretty good. We have no syntax errors. But when I'm really looking at this, I would love for there to be an actual comma with a space in between. So let me fix that up here. So now I'm going to come over here. Let me get this out of the way. I'm going to put in a double quote, comma with a space. And so that is going to hard code this in for all the columns. You're always going to put that comma space in between them. And I'll put another ampersand in. We should be good on syntax errors. Let's see if it actually works. We'll click on OK, and I've got the city state. Now this is not a good thing where we have the data type as being a mixed. So this is all going to be text. So I'm just going to turn this into text. And let's get out of here. I'm going to close and apply. Again, I've showcased this in some of my other videos in the past of how we've done some cleaning up, some basic cleaning in the Power Query editor. But I want to show you what we currently would have done before Azure Maps, just the basic map feature. So it's applying these query changes. Shouldn't take too long because there's not a lot of data. There's only 561 rows. I'm going to free up some space here. I'm going to bring in the basic map visual, bring in city state, which is going to be a location, and I'm going to put the bank name as actual, let me come on down to the size. So the count, so however many banks have failed in a city or state, that's going to change the size of the actual bubble. But if we take a look, this is one of the issues we have, that we're not seeing anything. And that's because city state is currently just a random text field, and Power BI using Bing in the background isn't guessing correctly what I want it to do because it's just random text. So what I'm going to do is change the data category for city state. So watch what happens here. So city state is currently being categorized as nothing. It's uncategorized. But if I change it to, hey, this is actually a place in the world, let's see if it picks that up for us. So we changed it to a place, and now we see some results, all right? Because it was just a basic text and the maps couldn't really guess what we wanted, we had to be explicit and say these are actual places. And if we do some zooming in here, I can see that I just know that Chicago had the most failed banks and it has the largest. All right, cool, that was great. But then Power BI put out this great update with Azure Maps. So this, I'm just going to rename this to the maps, basic map. And I'm going to make a new page to showcase Azure Maps. And when the update came out, I was like, yes, this will be awesome because I saw all these blogs talking about the new capabilities of what the Azure Maps is going to do. So I was like, okay, I've got a really easy file. This file I've done multiple times, so I just pulled it up. And so I went over and I said, okay, let's put in the Azure Maps. I said, let's put this all over here. And then I came over here and I was like, okay, bank name, I definitely want that because that's going to be the size. Where did I put it up here? So let's move it down to size. Didn't pick it up. So let me be more explicit with it. Bank name, put it into size. Perfect. And then I said, okay, I've got my city state here. Come on now, pick that up. You don't want to pick it up? Oh, let's try this one more time. Well, it might not let it, it'll be fixed in just a second though. But then I went to city state and I was like, well, okay, where do I put city state? And then I realized, limitations, only latitude and longitude. So I said, okay, I definitely want this to work. I want to show this to the people that I do my trainings with. Let me get some latitude and longitude. Well, no one had a great resource of all the latitudes and longitudes out there. So if you don't have a great source for that, let me show you something. And this is no promotion of the website. This is just, I did some researching. I found a great one. So use it if it's great for you or not. But I went out to this. It'd be great if I got some advertising dollars off of this, but I'm not. Simplemaps.com, and they've got some different sources for the US cities. And again, I was not going to pay for anything because I just wanted to see the features of what Azure Maps can do. So I just went to the basic. And so if you go to simplemaps.com, let me just put that in there one more time. Simple Maps, if you find me on YouTube, hit me up. So coming down here, I downloaded, and we'll do it here. We just download this free file right here, and it's going to download in the back end. It should be done. So let's open this up, and we've got our US cities. Perfect, great. So what do we do with that? I was like, okay. Well, I've got the latitude and longitude of these random cities, but I need them to match up with my data itself. So where do we get that in? Where do we load new data? We come up here and go back into the Power Query Editor. So I'm going to click on Transform Data. I'm going to add a new source, and this source is an actual Excel file that I just downloaded. So I'm going to come up here to New Source. This is an Excel file. It's in my Downloads, US Cities. I'm going to open that up, and let's see what we've got. So as it's making that connection, as that's going to get that data coming in, it's taking a little bit longer. Here we go. I want to bring that whole sheet in, and I take a look at what the preview is going to show me. And I see that we got city, we got the state IDs, everything's looking pretty good. Let's make sure there's some latitude and longitude in here. I like it. So, okay, let's bring it in. Now the problem is that the latitude and longitude is in a separate query. It's in a separate table. I need that for my final goal. I need for Barbersville, West Virginia over here, I need a column that has latitude associated with it as well as the longitude associated with it. So I'm going to have to do a join or a VLOOKUP for my Excel users, the join for my SQL users. merging for my Power BI users. So I need a column that's going to match up between sheet 1 and the bank list. So I see I've got my city state right here. So if I could get a city state column in sheet 1 and merge them together, I would be in business. So let's take a look and see if we can do that. So sheet 1, you know what, I'm going to rename this. Always do best practices. I'm going to call this lat and long for longitude. And in here, I do not see a separate column of just the city and just the state. So I could do what we did on the first one, do a add column and do a custom column. But let me showcase something else just in case you didn't know. Column from examples makes it even easier. So I'm going to click on my column from examples from the add column ribbon. Done. Now, over here, this is the beautiful part about add column from examples. I just start typing in what I want to be result. So I want South Creek to be the city, and then I want WA, the actual state abbreviation, because we want that to match up with our original. So again, just to show you real quick, I'm trying to get this to match up. So I need the city with the state abbreviation. So I'm going to come over here, do my column from examples again. So I want the city. So for row 1, the first city is South Creek. So I've done a double click in here. I'm going to type in South Creek, comma, and then I want that WA to show up. So WA, click enter, and look what happens. Power BI has already guessed what I want. They're saying, oh, you just want to put the city and the state together with a comma space? Perfect, I did it for you. Now, if you ever use add column from examples, sometimes it takes more than one try to get what you want, but that's what I wanted. So I'm going to click OK. We could rename this instead of merged. I'll rename it the city state for this one. It does not have to be the exact same name. So you know what? Just to prove that the names don't have to match when you do a merge, I'm going to go city and state. Okay, so here's the goal. I want every time that the city and the state match up in my bank list, I want to bring over the latitude and the longitude, which is right here. How do we do that? We do a merging of queries. So here we go. So I'm going to click on bank list. So this is the table I'm trying to add new columns to. So when I want to try to add new columns to something, I click the table that I want to add the new columns to. We're going to come over here in the home ribbon. We're going to click on our merge queries. You have the choice of doing merge queries or merge as new. I'm just going to do with merge queries. If we did as new, we would make a brand new table. Nothing wrong with it, but for today, I'm just going to do merge queries. So it's going to say, all right, you're going to merge. You're trying to smush up or mash up two different tables into one. So my first table is bank list. What other table do you want to mash up with? I want the latitude and longitude. So in order to mash up, they have to talk. They have to have a relationship. So this is just like if you're dealing a lot with modeling and you make your relationships between a primary key and a foreign key, kind of the same idea here. So how do they match up? How do they talk to each other? Well, you got to find that identical column that they could share in common, which in this case would be city state on bank list. And if I scroll all the way to the end, city and state on my second. So then you figure out, we got some privacy levels. We'll ignore those for now. This is just some random data out online. And now we go and say, well, how do you want the join to be? Well, if you want to know more about the different kinds of joins, please check out, I think it's one of the first videos of my first 4 that I did a whole thing on merging queries. Check that out. I don't have time to go into all of those right now, but for what we would want here is I want an inner join. I only want the ones that actually match up. And so here's what's neat about it. It's going to tell you how many match up between the two. It's going to say, hey, of the bank list column, you have this number of cities that match with this number of cities for this latitude. And we got pretty good, 539 of 561. You know, for paying for a free file, I'm okay with that. Now, if this was real big data analytics, obviously we would go for the full-blown latitude and longitude. So I'm going to click on OK. It's going to merge that in. It brings in the whole table. So it brought in the entire table that has all the information for Longview, Washington. Well, I don't want all of the information related to it from that table. All I'm concerned about is I just want the latitude and the longitude. Done. Got it? It's coming over. Now, I don't like these names. So this first one is the latitude. So I'm just going to rename these very quickly. Latitude. And then I want longitude. And oh, let me spell that right. Longitude. Hit enter. We're good. They are the data category that we have currently picked are decimal numbers because that's what they are. Now, if we're doing best practices, you know that whenever you do a merge, you should always take the table that's not actually going to be fully loaded and disable the load, because all this data that we actually want, we've selected to load into the one that we're concerned with, which is the bank list. So there's no need to put all this data into the memory of Power BI. So I'm going to click on close and apply. And now I should be able to take advantage of what Azure Maps has to offer. So come over here, it's going to make our changes for us. Give it a second. Applying those query changes. Latitude and longitude. Now we have an issue. Because these are numerical columns, Power BI automatically summarizes them for us. So if I'm going to use these and I don't want them to be summarized, I'm going to make a quick change. So I'm going to click on latitude. I'm going to go up to my column tools. I'm going to say, hey, the summarization is set to sum. I want them to all be very unique values, no summarization to happen. So I click on don't summarize. It's going to fix this here. I can do the same thing with longitude. Now, I could have just changed this once I drag them over, but if I know in a report, I don't know of any time where someone would want latitude and longitude summarized. It would never make sense. So I'm going to set that for all visuals that ever use it. They'll never summarize them. Now let's see if we get some good stuff. Now I can actually bring latitude over. Bring it in here, and I bring in my longitude as well. And we should start to see some, okay, so looking good. Basic map, got that here. Azure Maps, got it here. The drawback was I had to have latitude and longitude in there. So you might be saying, well, then why would you go through that whole process if you got the same results? Well, Azure Maps has way more to offer in terms of formatting and things that you can do. So with this, we've got a lot. We can start going in, we can start moving it around, just like we could with other things. But what we can do is we can do a quick zoom in right there. So what I did is I just did a shift hold, and it zoomed in on a certain section that I actually wanted to use. We have more layers that we can pick in terms of what do we want to actually show behind this map. Maps has a lot of them, but this has just quite a few more. Then here's the cool part. We can do the zoom in, which you're going, okay, I know I can zoom in. I did that on the other map, but let me start making some changes to this. So I'm going to go and change, because right now I just have the cities. So now I should be able to add that bank name into, I don't want it for the legend. Let's put it as the size. Now that should work. Okay, so looking a little bit more similar. We see this huge circle over here for Chicago, but now let me go to the format section for this and start making some changes. So in the bubbles are currently on. If I turn them to off, I get nothing. So I'm gonna turn them back on. And if I come down here, I can change the sizes of those bubbles. I can change the color. So let's go with just showing some features here. We'll go with that pink that I use a lot in my scenarios. And then I'm also going to change over here. We can change the different the sizes, and if it's cubic or log, etc. If I decide that I want the minimum size to be larger, so that's going to be representative of 1, and the max size to be larger, you got a lot more play here in terms of size of your bubbles. So let me put this down here. Okay, I like that. If I come to map settings, we have all these features here to go through. Again, it'd be hard to go through every single formatting feature that Azure Maps has. So we're just going to keep with just a few. Let's go back to the road. That's always a fun one. And finally, let's take a look at, I just went past it, our bar chart. I'm going to turn the bar chart to on. What did this do? This now gives me some 3D capabilities of how I zoom in and how I take a look at the perspectives. See, I've got this like 3D perspective now. And so as I take a look, right now I'm holding down the control key as I'm doing this. And so now I start to get a little bit of a different view, kind of like a fly-in view. So I'm going to come over here, get in closer to Chicago, see how this actually makes a difference. And so we start to see this as I'm moving it around, we get a little bit more of detail. And if I turn the bubbles off at this point, again, we're back to, now we're only seeing the bar. So last one I had the bubbles on and the bar on, you might have been going, wait, why do you have both on? Well, I wanted to show that you could have both on at the same time. It's not that great because here's what the bar chart exclusively does, just the bar chart. Let's come back in here. I'm gonna zoom in on Chicago. And coming over here and zooming in. And I'm doing this control, now I'm doing a control and moving this around to where I get this really cool experience. Now, you might be going, this is not useful for me at any point. Okay, that's fine. But this is just what one of the updates were with this new visual that you could do. We can also turn on the traffic layer, and this usually takes a while based on the internet speed. But with the traffic layer, you'll now see, and it's not going to load right now, my internet, there it goes. I can now see update real-time traffic around the area. So if you're measuring, maybe construction workers and how many incidents that they are currently working on, you have an app that when the construction workers get there, they start logging in and say, I'm working here now. And then you have a Power Automate that throws off an email and says to the supervisor, hey, they're currently here. Where do you want them to go next? Your supervisor might, ooh, that's a lot, might look at all the different kind of traffic patterns that are going on and figure out what's the next place that they should go once they complete their job. So it's got a lot of great information. Let's turn that traffic. And with the traffic, let me go back up here. There's a lot that you can do with the traffic. You can show incidents. I'm going to turn the show incidents to off. That should make this a little bit cleaner. And then we can go to the traffic control is on. And then we have all these icons that show up here as well. So again, want to give you a quick idea of how the Azure Maps has been updated, not updated, has been implemented into the Power BI desktop. And in order to use it, you need latitude and longitude. And if you're ever looking for how do I get latitude and longitude into an actual table where I've already got the city and the state, well, you can just use that part of this video and talk about how to merge your queries with that website that I showed you. So I hope this was helpful to you. Leave any comments below. Let me know any future videos that you would like me to discuss or go over, any topics. I would love to hear your advice and opinions. Appreciate it.